Today we got Christian Muniz again. It's great. It's always great to have you on. It's been a pretty chaotic time, honestly. It's if I'm going to be honest. You asked me what I was doing or how I've been lately, and getting familiar with a very new program with Dr. Reese. I don't know if you've heard of Dr. Reese.
Yes, ever since you mentioned him last time, I've started to follow him, and I've been keeping up with his latest posts. A lot of really good information. So
Yeah, it's been just getting involved with all that. It's been such a switch up. I mean, uh, a couple of days ago, I think it might have been like short of a week, maybe. He just kind of asked me again. He's just like, "So, what do you think about joining the clinic or something like that?" He just kind of really put it subtly in there as like, "You know what? I'm kind of sick of giving free protocols to everybody. I'm kind of just sick of this whole business structure and everything. And it gets free. It's free, right? Everything's free, but it's still like it gets free results that people aren't so serious about it. There's not such a huge infrastructure for it. It does lack a lot of things, cash flow, obviously. I mean, I didn't get anything for for doing all that work, but I'm thankful to be, switching up and getting involved with the clinic and working with the team. Love his team. Love everything that's going on. But yeah, what's been new with you?
well, I've actually been doing a little bit of a research project on my own with the fitness and breathing, and so been working on that for the last couple of weeks. It's been really fun. It's brought a lot of eye-opening information, and it's I'm excited to share it with people because for those people that I've been working with, training, in the fitness industry and athletes, they always hear me stress the importance of breathing through your nose, and finally have some information here to share with people so that they can see it for themselves. Because sometimes hearing something or just trying something without fully understanding it um, doesn't really paint the big picture for people. So I'm excited to share these analytics to be able to allow people to implement this into whether it be their fitness or overall health and wellness in general. So that's pretty much been the majority of my extra time working on that. But
Yeah, I see you're making a lot of extra videos these days, or not extra. You're making a lot of videos. I like the I like what you're bringing. It's with the whole mask. I'm really curious about the mask. Like that, what does that do? Is that like actually control the rate or something, or does it allow more oxygen just while you're working out? Because I see you like on a treadmill. You're going or on whatever machine you're doing, and you got this big like gas mask hookup.
right, so that's actually it's just a mask that measures the carbon dioxide output and the oxygen intake, and so and the breathing rate, and so it's just utilized for a metabolic analysis test. So the company that uses that device is called Pinoe, and they have created the first. Um, I don't know. It's not commercial, like you would have in, say, a hospital or a um, scientific type of arena. This device is actually available for fitness trainers and studios to be able to utilize to measure people's metabolic uh, analysis, and which it measures many different other things as well.
So when you say
Heart rate.
metabolic, is this like your is there different types of metabolisms like breathing metabolism to like burning calorie metabolism? Like
So it's yeah, it's virtually an analyzing every bit of it. So cellular metabolism, which is obviously the most important, and your body's ability um, to utilize oxygen in different heart rate zones, and your body's ability to exhale carbon dioxide, and at which heart rate zones you're at, your body's ability to your body's ability to burn fat as a fuel source, as well as carbohydrates. And so it's measuring all these different components, and then it gives you a a data or analysis reading on all of these different metrics, and that allows people to be able to uh, find their most important zones to be able to achieve the goals that they're trying to achieve. So somebody's wanting to lose more body fat, then this will help them know exactly which heart rate zone they should be training in, because their body will utilize, say, carbs versus fats in different zones. And so this test, the mask is only for the test, just to see where your body is measuring in those areas, and then they allow you to speak with one of their metabolic experts to go over all of the details, and then they even actually offer a specific nutritional program, as well as a training program for you. So it's actually a really cool device, and very useful in the sports arena, but as well as just in general health and wellness. So people that are wanting to have a higher quality of life, and just have less pain, be able to eat better, sleep better, and function better, even in the cognitive aspects of daily activities. So the breathing has so much to do with every aspect of the systems in our body, so that we can function optimally and be able to achieve the goals that we're trying to achieve, whether it be mental focus and clarity, or whether it be dietary goals that we may have, and also uh, you know performance for athletes and people that are involved in fitness.
So you can tell like how well somebody burns calories as opposed to carbs, or excuse me, fats as opposed to carbs and protein, just by reading their intake of oxygen and carbon dioxide flowing out, doing that. That's crazy.
Yeah. So it's a combination of that, as well as your heart rate, um, and then the breathing rate. So how frequently are you inhaling and exhaling at specific intensities? And so
Okay.
it's it was actually pretty astonishing when I saw the results. And so working on putting this information together has been really exciting, because people, they're going to be mind blown when they see what what I've been able to gather through this test. And so this Pinoy device has been used in um, Rutgers University, California. Um, I don't know which California university uses it, but there's many other um, universities and hospitals. I think John Hopkins University also has used this specific device to be able to analyze, people's metabolic rates, and figure out, what somebody needs to do to improve their overall health, wellness, and um, you know, just general fitness, if they're involved in sports.
Yeah, you know what? I'm not sure if I heard it from you or from just probably some other source, but I just recently heard that your lungs are actually the pump of your blood, rather than your heart. Your heart's kind of just like a valve to,
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know
Okay,
if I mentioned that, but yes, that's true.
it's crazy. Like I never would have thought that. Always thought it was the heart doing the pushing around of things. But it makes a lot more sense, really, because there's a lot of times where I can control my heart rate by just breathing. Like if I just, take a big inhale, it just like stops, for a second. It
Hmm.
definitely has such a big control. And
Absolutely.
you're a big advocate of breathing through the nose. It's like air conditioned air. And
Right.
so for like night breathing, what would you I mean, so like for somebody that's like a mouth breather, because I mouth breathe at night when I'm sleeping. Like, is there like a specific strategy that you could use to get yourself to nose breathe at night, or is that even like necessary?
Yeah, it's actually probably one of the most important um, times of the day, how we're breathing when we sleep, because if we're not optimizing our body's ability to recover, which is where our body is going to heal and recover the most while we're sleeping, then we're not going to be well rested. We're not going to wake up with more energy and be able to go on to the next day and make it even better. So breathing while we sleep is very very important, and obviously it's like a third of our day we're spending sleeping. So how we breathe in a 24-hour period is going to be determined not only by how we're breathing while we sleep, but then how we're consciously breathing um, throughout the day. So if if we're breathing through our mouth, there's many different negative effects that come along with that. So number one, it's going to be poor teeth health. So the bacteria in our mouth is going to be affected by heavy mouth breathing, and not only that, but our nasal cavity. I think I've mentioned this before. Is It's responsible for warming the air that we breathe, purifying the air that we breathe, moistening it, and then allowing that air to go into the lower half of our lungs where our hemoglobin is going to attach to the oxygen. And we're going to have more oxygen in our body to be able to have all of the processes of our body be more functional and work more efficiently. So it's vital that when we sleep at night, we're sleeping with our mouth closed. And there's many different ways that you can go about it. Um, the easiest way is just tape your mouth shut. And for some people, it may seem like a very scary thing, very dangerous thing. And yes, yeah, it can be dangerous. So um, there's actually a tape that's been designed specifically for sleep breathing. It's called myotape, and it's just like a kinetic tape. So it's the stretchy type of tape, and it comes shaped like a donut, and so it has a hole in the middle, and you basically just put it on, and it tightly kind of pulls your lips together so that when you fall asleep, your mouth is kind of being forced to be closed. However, if you needed to open your mouth, you would be able to open your mouth with that. But the other thing that's suggested is to just take just one tiny piece of tape and just start, putting it right over the lips there. So if you, for some reason, your nasal cavity was 100% blocked, which you know you would have to be severely, in a sinus infection state, and that's probably not recommended to try to start breathing through your nose in that situation. But you can start off slowly throughout the day and work your way up to, being able to have your mouth closed. And then there's also other devices that that are used for strengthening the muscles. It's like a little chewing device, and you just put it between your teeth, and you start chewing, and it starts to strengthen the muscles in your face, and that tends to allow the mouth muscles to be able to keep your lips closed more often than not. But if we're heavily mouth breathing throughout the day, in that other 2/3 of the day, then chances are those muscles aren't being used as they should. So you got to try to transition your way into being more conscious about breathing through your nose throughout the day, and then also maybe trying to do the tape method. But it's super helpful. It'll change the game for you if you're a mouth breather. I definitely recommend you looking up Patrick McEwen with the Oxygen Advantage online. You can find lots of videos, which is where I've been studying his work for several years now, and there's a lot out there. So
Yeah, a little bit ago you mentioned how hemoglobin binds to oxygen. I don't really know how the whole respiratory system works on the cellular level. Like the oxygen comes into the lungs and it just gets absorbed into the air sacs or something. Can you start me off from there?
yeah, so the many different capillaries that are contained in our lungs, and just to point out something very important about our capillaries, they're the smallest vessels that carry our red blood cells, and red blood cells must go through capillaries one at a time in a single file line. So when people have circulatory issues, and we'll take diabetics for example, because it's very, everybody knows that diabetics tend to have cold hands and cold feet, because the furthest extremities tend to have more capillaries than blood vessels. And so when a diabetic who has lots of sugar or glucose in the blood, we know that that can become a very sticky situation. So what happens is red blood cells, for many reasons, will begin to stick together. And when you have several red blood cells that stick together, and they like to stack basically like a roll of coins, right? And that's called rouleau. The rouleau effect is when the red blood cells start to stack and stick together. Well, if they're stuck together, those red blood cells are not going to go through capillaries. So you're going to get less blood flow through capillaries, which means less oxygen delivery, less nutrient delivery. Our lungs are basically just loaded with capillaries. And so if you aren't breathing properly through your nose, where your nose is taking the nitric oxide that's produced in the nasal cavity and pushing that down into the lower part of our lungs, where the majority of the red blood is being pumped into that part of our lungs, and that's where we're absorbing the oxygen, then you're not going to have as much oxygen absorption into hemoglobin, and then not going to have as much oxygen delivery through the rest of the body. So the red blood cells come in from the heart into the lungs, and then basically like a magnet, a north and a south end, the oxygen just magnetically attracts to the hemoglobin, and the hemoglobin picks up the oxygen and then carries that back into the heart and then back out to the rest of the circulatory system.
Oh, so the hemoglobin is literally attracted to oxygen in the blood. Hmm. Through like the whole God magnetic sense, the whole
Mm-hmm. It's
that's
pretty
bizarre. because you know we're
Spectacular.
on the last podcast we were talking about how cells required enough cell salts and minerals and stuff in order to repel each other, and if they don't have enough of those minerals, those electronic minerals, literally, they just start sticking together, and it can cause so many different problems for people. That's why blood sugar is kind of like really closely related with the dehydration and the whole. You know, when I give people protocols and stuff, that's what I tell them. It's either going to be a dehydration thing, or it's going to be a not enough sugar, not enough nutrients to process the sugar, whatever. Uh, Now I don't really do my practice anymore. It's a different program, but um, I wanted. So I just have a question, just like a random question to throw at you, just because I don't really know. I've been wanting to search it up online and stuff, but I've just kind of been saving it, and I'm not sure. Does essential fatty acids turn into cholesterol, or does or is essential fatty acids literally cholesterol?
Well, I would, I don't know exactly the answer, but I do know that, matter can't be created out of nothing. So cholesterol is a fat, and our body produces cholesterol in the presence of acidity as a buffering mechanism to protect the lining of our cardiovascular system. So by that, it would just seem logical that um, that our body is, going to create that matter from another type of fat. So essential fatty acid, you know, would then transform into cholesterol, um, and that just seems natural. I mean, what else could it possibly be formed from? What would you think?
Well, would need like other cofactors or something like that. I'm guessing the fatty nutrients, DEAK, all that stuff play a big
Mm-hmm.
role. Yeah, but yeah, it's just kind of like been kind of throwing around that for a little bit. Like, so is this like a conversion process, or is it just like it's already cholesterol? Or like, what's the difference between a fatty acid and a cholesterol? I guess.
Well, you have low density lipoproteins and high density lipoproteins. Um, so based on the the amount of acid that's in the body, in a specific area, then that would create a higher density um, lipoprotein, which is fatty acid, and or cholesterol. And so um, I like to keep it very simple, um, for people to understand that there's opposition in all things, just like the north end of a magnet and the south end of a magnet. Like you're never going to have a one-sided magnet, just like you're never going to have a one-sided sheet of paper, uh, you know, a one-sided stick, pencil, pen. Like everything's going to have two sides to it. And so you can't have one without the other. And one can't be created without the existence of another. And so in thinking that, simplicity of positive, negative, good, bad, left, right, up, down, opposition in all things, it helps kind of be able to reverse engineer a question that comes from a thought to find the answer. And so if the blood has to maintain slightly alkaline, the opposite of alkaline is going to be acid. So you can't have, alkalinity without acidity. You can't have acidity without alkalinity. And so it's all about, having a balance of matter, or molecules, which are made up of smaller pieces of matter, which are atoms. And, then when you get to atoms, then you're talking protons and electrons, which is essentially protons are acids and electrons are alkaline or base. So that's probably the simplest way to be able to understand, everything that goes on in the body, is to be able to figure out at its foundational core, whether it's an essential fatty acid, or whether it's an amino acid, or whether it's a red blood cell, or whatever it may be, is to be able to get down to, the root of it and understand it at the core. Is it electron rich, or is it proton rich? And because it's going to have to be one or the other, or it could be neutrons, and then you can just kind of work backwards from there to figure out what it is, what it comes from, and what it becomes when it is expressed in a different environment.
Yeah, I like that. A lot of people say like I have too much bad cholesterol or something like that. Too much cholesterol. It's not really a. It's you can't really have. I mean, too much. I mean, you can have too much, but it's much worse to have low cholesterol than it is to have high cholesterol. And so people will send me their numbers for LDL to HDL, and I'm just like, it doesn't really matter. Your body knows how to manage those perfectly when it's got the best setup and everything. It's got all the
Right.
nutrients and whatever it needs to manage that. But it's not like bad cholesterol is necessarily bad. It's like it's really necessary in order to have the polar opposite, which kind of touches, on greater things in life, that we couldn't have negative things without positive things, and we couldn't have vice versa. So it's really such a law of duality within ourselves, and I feel like that takes it to the broader picture of, you can't really be healthy or live a healthful life if you've never been through that sick phase, or that, that
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't, at least I wasn't taught, how to have a healthy body and everything. We were all lied to by the whole medical monopoly thing. But eat your 7 food groups and you're good. No, it doesn't work that way. But
Probably the most important thing that anyone needs to understand about cholesterol is it is, if you have high cholesterol, it's a good thing, because if you didn't, and you had the same situation inside your body, you would die pretty quickly. So the cholesterol is actually saving your life, because it's a buffer for acidity. So it's only going to be produced in the presence of acidity. So if you are highly acidic in your body because you are consuming acidic foods, drinks, and you're not, getting the essential nutrients through the foods that you're eating, then your body has to, protect itself somehow. And we have 150,000 miles of veins, arteries, and capillaries in our body. and they're lined with a one cell thick lining called endothelial cells. And they're responsible for producing nitric oxide, which is dilating the blood vessels to allow for more blood flow and more oxygen delivery and more nutrient delivery. So if you have acids just flowing into your body because you aren't, number one, you're not eating right. Number two, you may not be exercising and moving your body right. Number three, you may be dehydrated. You're not getting enough fluids in your body. And number four, you may not be sleeping well and you're not able to regenerate fast enough. Your body's acidity level just goes up and up and up, and you don't have enough of the nutrients, the minerals that you need to be able to buffer those acids and eliminate them properly. Then your body's going to have to go into preservation mode. You know, it's going to have to create cholesterol to be able to give you some time. It's going to buy you some time to be able to slowly collect more minerals, slowly collect more nutrients, you know, through your poor diet. And hopefully, you know, over the next 3 weeks of you drinking coffee and your body trying to filter that, you know, to get the water out of that, while coffee's a diuretic. So if you drink 5 ounces of coffee, you're going to pee out 7 ounces of fluid. You know, it's robbing Peter to pay Paul. But the most important thing to understand about cholesterol is it's saving your life. So if you are worried about having high cholesterol, you should be more concerned with what you put in your mouth, how often you're drinking, you know, pure, clean water, and how often are you moving your body and sweating and exercising, and how well are you able to rest and regenerate so that your body can start back up the next day and feel, you know, feel healthy and get ahead of the curve instead of trying to play catch up.
It's really such a disaster what the medical community is like created, because I mean the your body's trying to put out the fire with the cholesterol, and your doctor's like, well, it shouldn't be that high, so and then he gives you a statin drug or a fat-free diet. So you're giving your body less chance to put out the fire while you're consuming the bad stuff that's just fueling the fire in the first place. So it's really just, yeah, it's a huge setup for another revenue stream of statin drugs, which really, I mean, if you're on my health page, you know that we're not going to treat symptoms. I mean, we aim at eliminating health problems altogether, and that's what anybody would want. I mean, you don't want to be wrapped up in this system of people that just you feel like they're all the almighty knowing because they perpetrate themselves to be that, and all of our media sources. And I hear that there's a lot of new trends though that are a lot of more people want to get healthy themselves because of this whole vaccine crisis. You know, just that alone is kind of getting people to just realize how big of a screw up this has been. But it's been going on for I don't even know how long, maybe like 100 years or something like that. It's been, you know, if you go back all the way to the Flexner report and stuff like that, it's yeah, it's got a huge history. It's kind of crazy how we have this entire profession that's taken over literally all of the other professions and has created a system that is able to manipulate people into having them think that they actually know what they're talking about. Like when I go to the doctor, you know, it's like I go to them for a gut issue, a little simple gut issue, and I come out with, well, I go in and they start talking. They don't really ask me too many questions, so they just maybe like, "What do you eat?" or some. I can't even remember because the meeting was like 15 minutes long. It was a it felt like a drug deal. You know, you're going in and getting the candy and getting back out. Well, ended up getting just buspirone, anti-anxiety medication, and antidepressants. I don't know which one that was, but I only took them for like a couple of days because I just had so little faith in actually getting a result in the first place. I'm like, this is just not going to do it. I mean, I already knew that from the start. You know, I'm not lacking drugs, and it sucks to see all, you know, my family, not all of my father and other people that have just been sucked into this whole system of just managing things. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know where I'm headed with this point. To be honest, um, it's been it's been weird lately. I've been having just fluctuations of energy because I've eliminated grains. I've eliminated grains for good. I don't know what you think about that. What do you think about like even rice? I eliminated all rice. I'm not eating any grains without, you know, just fruit.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. You know, if if I was to eat rice, I would make sure that it was organic, it was sprouted, and short grain, so a lot less glucose index and more nutrients. But you know, you don't necessarily need it to survive anyway. So it can be, mildly acidic. So anyone who's, still dealing with gut issues should probably stay away from it. Anyways.
All right, so we had to do a little Zoom break. The Zoom only goes for an hour, and I might even be at 45 minutes. I'm not sure, but we were talking about some other things. I kind of forget what the heck. But we were talking about bacterial, the microbiome in the mouth. That
Mhm.
was really interesting to me. How you said like mouth breathing as opposed to nose breathing. What's the difference between those two? Like how does breathing through the mouth negatively impact your bacterial environment in the mouth?
So, uh, oxidizing, um, we're drying the mouth out. That healthy bacteria needs to be moist and, you know, better to be in an enclosed environment, so to speak, rather than an open, just like an open wound, doesn't heal as good as, cover it up and keep it from, the oxygen. So then too much carbon dioxide coming out, of the mouth can also have different effects with the different types of bacteria that we do have in our mouth. And then that along with, if you have, leftover fragments of food in your teeth and your gums, and that bacteria isn't able to stay alive to neutralize the negative effects of it, then that could also cause, problems with the teeth and the gums. So that is one major issue, as well as just overall oxygenation of the body. The tissues need oxygen, and a lot of different reactions that happen in the body that require oxygen. And so if we're getting 20% less oxygen because we're breathing through our mouth efficiently, we're up to 20% less efficient in every other process in the body that requires having oxygen.
So like why is the mouth bacteria so important? I actually don't really know too much about that.
Well, most importantly, to help the gum health. So the teeth are essentially the circuit breaker for the entire body. And so connected to all 12 energy meridian systems in our body, just like the circuit breaker in our home. And, it's connected to every outlet and every light switch and every, light, uh, every other electrical appliance. Everything is drawn back to the circuit breaker, the main circuit breaker. So the teeth are essentially that main hub that sends signals to the brain and to the rest of the body through the energy meridian system to be able to signal, specific things that need to happen so that the body can maintain homeostasis ideally. So if the teeth are being damaged through what we eat and what we drink and how we are constantly breathing in and out of the mouth and causing the mouth to be dry and not very moist, then it'll kill off some of that bacteria. And then that bacteria can't clean up the mess and keep the teeth in good health and the gums in good health. And then that is a trickling effect onto other systems in our body. So
Yeah, does it play a close relationship with like your salival enzymes in your mouth? Like,
absolutely. Yeah, 100%. So if we are, our not only our salivary glands, but the different enzymes that are produced through that. When we start to chew something or drink something, our body immediately starts to produce that those enzymes, which essentially, remember when you break it back down to the most basic component of that matter, it is a sodium bicarbonate is one of the main substances that's produced in our saliva and our salivary glands to begin to neutralize acids from the foods that we eat and what we drink, and also help maintain good, healthy bacteria.
yeah, it plays a huge role in the digestion process. So you'd imagine what it would do if you just eliminated all of the good and bad bacteria with the mouthwash. You know, that's a big thing. Like, keep the mouth sterile these days. Well, I mean, maybe like if you had like a bad bacterial overload or something, but I don't know. I don't really recommend it in any case. It's kind of like an antibiotic for the mouth.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's actually mouthwash is actually probably one of the most toxic things that we could do, um, especially in the morning or after we eat something. Um, those enzymes are part of the cleansing process, and so if you eat something and then you immediately brush your teeth, you're clearing out, or you use a mouthwash, you're clearing out those healthy enzymes that are trying to do their job and protect, and so it becomes detrimental
So
to
it
many other.
recovers. Excuse me. So it's like recovers after you eat a meal. Like, okay, because there's like some sort of damage that goes on with when you eat food, or like oxidation or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, because remember, matter can't be destroyed, so there's going to be leftover matter in the mouth, and then the saliva is going to continue to maintain a signal because opposition in all things. So if there's acid remaining in the mouth, then the body will keep producing the alkalinity to neutralize that acid and then carry it out and get rid of it. And obviously, good dental care is important, but the timing of when we brush our teeth, it should be, at least 30 minutes after a meal to allow, our natural, defense mechanism to just kind of do its job and not attack it while it's already been signaled to come out and do what it needs to do. So mouthwash is definitely a bad idea. You could do natural mouthwashes, or um, oil pulling is also something that I recommend. I've done it and experienced some really good results through that. Um, it helps pull different toxins and bacteria, bad bacteria out, but also helps to you know coat the gums with essential fatty acids and um, you know very healthy minerals that are in like some such as coconut oil. And so that's something that I would recommend people do more so than using a mouthwash.
Yeah, yeah, and of course spitting it out because it's like, yeah, you
Mm-hmm.
don't want that going.
Right.
um, but so oil pilling, I'd imagine. So like, I have like a vague picture in my head. It's just like you get the oil in, and it kind of has some sort of reaction with your cells.
Mm-hmm.
Some so it pulls the toxins out. Do you know so much about that? I want to know more about that.
Um, as you start to swish it around, it's obviously creating chemical reactions in your mouth, and that oil is absorbing and adsorbing different, you know, food fragments and types of bacteria that could be, um, you know, eating away at your enamel and just getting deep into your gums and causing, issues. But coconut oil is very hydrating as well. So that can also, get in there and kind of soften the gums and allow for a very nice environment for your own natural process to be able to continue doing what it needs to do to help maintain good, healthy gums and healthy teeth.
Yeah, so you could probably do like oil pulling if you had like a cavity or a infection of sorts. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, it
I've,
absolutely works.
I've also heard like colloidal silver and what ginger root, something like that.
Hmm.
But
Yeah, those are good, healthy electron donors.
yeah, I where did that go? So when you're breathing through the mouth, like is the is it like the bad bacteria survives in a dry environment, or does all bacteria kind of need a moist environment to live in?
Um, well, some have different, environments that enact them to be able to be more dominant in what they do. For instance, like cancerous cells, they thrive in an acidic environment. So in lack of oxygen is where cancerous cells will then be able to multiply. So if you know if you were a smoker and you got mouth cancer and you were a heavy mouth breather, then you would then be feeding those cells by breathing more through your mouth, because the saliva is alkaline. And so if your mouth is dry, saliva needs salt, water, and carbon dioxide. So you're minimizing the amount of water that is in the mouth, and then you're minimizing the amount of sodium bicarbonate that your body can produce, your saliva can produce, so that you can neutralize the effects of that cancer. Um, Also, what happens is if you were to see, clean my phone here, and I'll show you a quick little sample.
All right.
All right. So Oh, that's kind of dirty. I had coconut oil on my hands earlier, so I touched my screen. Let's see. So you see my black screen there. If I take just a normal breath out of my nose, you can see how much condensation is there. All right. Now, if I take a normal breath out of my mouth, you can see how much more condensation. So we lose about 40% more water just breathing out of our mouth. So we're dehydrating ourselves quite rapidly, a lot faster than breathing out of our nose. And so that you can just see that, like just tying the mouth produces saliva using water, salt, and carbon dioxide. So I'm losing 40% more water just by breathing than I'm producing, at least 40% less saliva. And also we're eliminating more heat out of our mouth than we do out of our nose. So we could be, making this environment hotter than it should be. At the same time, if we're breathing in, we're making it more dry than it should be. So it's just many different negative effects that come from that.
What kind of things, like what kind of diseases could you get from having like a bad bacterial overgrowth in the mouth, like gum disease and stuff like that?
Mm-hmm. Gingivitis, gum disease. Since the nose, the ears, the eyes, and the mouth are all connected, that could lead into other issues: the nasal cavity, the ear infections, the eyes, eye infections. So a whole host of different things that could come from that. And yeah, but most importantly, just being able to optimize our body's ability to utilize oxygen for every other process is important. So if you're able to do that, then that minimizes the chances of you having other other diseases, which could particularly be in the mouth, the nose, the ears, the throat.
Okay, but just don't forget.
All right. Well, sorry, I got interrupted. um, what I really want to know, like, what's the direct relationship with like how bacteria interacts with our cells at that level? Like, I don't know what kind of. I mean, I know they're required for certain. Bad bacteria will produce a sulfurous gas or something like that, and they do that as the end result of a process that happens in the body. Same thing with good bacteria, but they produce a good for the body. I just don't really understand, I guess, like what I mean. This would determine what the difference of bad bacteria and good bacteria is, just like understanding like what the actual function of it is at the cellular level.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's the first stage of degeneration of any healthy cell. It's going to go through the different stages. So bacteria turns into mold, turns into fungus. Is that right? Bacteria, mold, fungus, and then that eventually those turn into viruses. And depending on the environment, it will determine what that cell does and what it becomes to then, break itself down from the inside out to then degenerate itself into smaller matter, and then begin the whole cycle again. Because a bacteria can transform back into a healthy cell. It's called pleomorphism. Are you familiar with that?
No.
So I'll send you a link of a video of it being documented under a microscope. And it was a healthy red blood cell. Based on its environment, it transformed into a rod bacilli bacteria. And then the environment was changed back to an alkaline environment, and that same cell then transformed itself back into a red blood cell. So bacteria changes based on its environment, and then obviously becomes something new to have a purpose for it to break down something else that's in the environment.
Oh, so the good bacteria would be breaking down good things and then breaking down the bad things. And then
Right.
the bad bacteria is going to break down the good things in basic sense.
Right.
That's really
Well, the bad bacteria will, just like, cancer it's not a noun, it's a verb. So it's not a thing, it is a expression, describing the environment, and it's acting a specific way based on the environment. So if it's in low oxygen environment, then it's going to multiply, and that's basically what bacteria does. In essence, if it's bad, it's going to just continue to multiply in that bad environment if it maintains a low oxygen environment. So
that's really interesting. It's a whole plethora of information there. And so you mentioned this. So the bacteria, is this the cycle for all bacteria? The bacteria, mold, fungus, virus?
as far as I know, because I can take it back, the matter can't be destroyed, so it's going to devolve, right? It's the evolution of cells.
What is
Oh,
it? What is
sorry, I missed one. There's bacteria, mold, fungus. Did I say that? Bacteria, mold, fungus, virus. Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Okay.
So what is that? What happens after the virus stage here?
Well, viruses are dead. So it's like the end result of a cell like releasing the virus as a signaling to the other good cells to, the white blood cells to then come around and clean up the mess, essentially. Because viruses, they don't have their own nucleus. They're not living cells. They just can pollute other cells and then cause them to, it lives off of another host and then causes it to, because it's a poison, it's a very highly toxic poison. It then causes that cell to become toxic and devolve into the same thing and duplicate another virus. And then that's where, you get tested for a virus and your body is releasing more of this matter. And so that's basically, what happens.
And so like, oh, go ahead.
With a viral infection.
Yeah, so there's like too much of an abundance of virus at a location, so then you get an infection there.
But it comes from within. It's not external bacteria or bug, that you caught. You have to do it.
So what do you?
We don't get sick. We do sick by what we eat, what we drink, what we think, our environment, how we live our lives, and even what we believe.
Now, do you think there are like some bugs, I mean, that you can catch and okay, now I'm sick, like, because there are some situations where I've seen like, well, my friend, he went to I forget, it's probably uh, it was a location, international location, probably not, probably like on an island or something. But he was helping out a village and building school or something like that. And there's a week he's on the 90 essential nutrients, of course. Um, and he was probably like healthier than most people there, because he had access to all 90, and they don't really have that clear access. But the there's like a virus going around. Everybody is like coming, or not a virus or something, but I believe it was called like Zika or something like that. I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
but everybody in the village had gotten that sickness. So to me, it seems like there is like we can catch things because he was healthy. He's really healthy, and then compared with everybody else, everybody was getting sick no matter what. Maybe.
Well, as far as viruses go, there actually hasn't been a true isolation of any virus by any human being anywhere in the world. So, through the standard process of the scientific method, that is the gold standard to isolate and purify viruses for them to be identified as a causing agent, there hasn't been yet any isolation of any virus. So the fact that they haven't updated the germ theory to the germ fact is just another reason why there's no way that germs can't be causing disease. They may be a contributing factor, but there's no scientific, proof that if I had some type of symptom, because essentially it's just a dis-ease. It's not, it's not, you're not at ease, you're dis-eased. So if I had a disease and I coughed on you and then you got the same disease, like there's never been any proof. And even in 1917, with the Spanish flu epidemic, there would be people that live in the same household that didn't get sick, people that were neighbors. There'd be one neighbor would have Spanish flu, and then the next door neighbor wouldn't, and then a couple houses down, another neighbor would. It's like, was it just being selective? That was just kind of hopping over houses, like just many different things that just don't make sense in terms of viruses being contagious. So it's just strange that there would be a scientist, a doctor, Dr. Otto Warburg, to receive a Nobel Prize in the early 1900s for his discovery that that cancerous cells, right? Not a cancer cell, because there's no existence of a cancer cell. It's just a cancerous cell, meaning a cell that was in a poor environment, just like the fishbowl metaphor. So if you have a fish in a fish bowl and the fish gets sick, what do we do first? Treat it with medication or change the water. And
Yeah, like that's why I tell a lot of people on my Q&As and stuff. I'll say, like, you don't want to poison the body. You don't want to poison the cancerous cells. Even you don't want to kill them. You don't want to touch them. You just want to love and nourish and protect them. Honestly, you just want to regenerate them. They're
right,
practically just a degenerated cell uh, that can be regenerated. It's just like
and
you don't want to cut it out.
that's pleomorphism. That's exactly what that is. So those cells can then be, some of them based on there's a point of no return, and then they can then be absorbed, by the white blood cells and eliminated. But some of them can be, if the environment is changed and you're loving on those cells with the nutrients and the proper, water and things that the body requires to be able to increase the alkalinity of the blood, then those cells will then absolutely transform back into healthy cells, and then the symptoms go away. So it's pretty fascinating. There's a lot of research out there that shows there's not any proof. I mean, if it was true, then by now every human being on the planet would be dead.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
Like if this virus was contagious, then literally every single human being on the planet, I mean, would be dead or would have had these whatever viruses. But the size of a virus, like, do you know how big the size of a virus is?
Not exactly, but I hear it's a lot smaller than a cell. I mean,
Way smaller. It's like 0.025 microns thick, and an atom is like 0.2. So it's just barely bigger than one atom, the size of a virus, like so tiny. So it's, it would be impossible. I would say it's just impossible for somebody to sneeze in the air and a virus then be able to be transmitted into somebody else's body. And you think about how much water the body is made of, and this teeny tiny little speck of can't even, it's so hard to see it under a 500 times multiplication like compound microscope, that your body's not going to be, your immune system's not going to be strong enough to be able to just like transform that into nothing and just eliminate it. So yeah, some people, if your environment of your body is already toxic and acidic, and you're not a healthy person, you're an acidic environment, then yeah, it's possible for somebody to contribute to that already toxic environment, but it's still not the cause. Just a symptom. Like,
the train theory makes so much more sense in so many different areas. But I have to get going. It was a really nice talk with you, Christian. Seriously, every time I'm talking, I'm writing down so many notes, and I learn a lot from you. I really appreciate that, and I hope to talk a lot more with you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time, and enjoy your day, and God bless you.
Choose peace over pain. Choose